we're buying into this. This is Brady's coming back or something. Brady's figured it out. Who knows?
Maybe.
We'll see. Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Stokastic.com NFL Live Before Lock show. That's right. We got an hour. I almost forgot what I was doing for a second. That pause was unintentional, but hey, we'll figure it out as we go along. We got an hour and 15 minutes for you today. I'm Dave Loughran at Lafayette_D on Twitter. Hit your boy up, LOUGHY_D. Joined by, as always, Matt Savoca at Draftaholic. What's up, brother? How we feeling tonight?
Hey, doing well. We have two teams that are capable of putting on great offensive performance, and we could actually get a shootout on a showdown slate. But Brady and the Buccaneers certainly proved that that's not always the case last week with 3 points. I'm still nervous. It's good to be here, though.
Yeah, I would be nervous too, honestly. I mean, this team is consistently scoring fewer than 20 points per contest. We'll see, though. Neil Orfield joining us as well, three-man booth today at Player Q DFS. Neil, we have absolutely found ourselves in the thick of some shitty games in the many Thursdays that we've done shows this season. It feels like most of them have been. They're still fun to talk about. They've been bad. Do we get a quality game? Because if I asked you in August if this was going to be a good game, you'd look at it, you'd circle it, and you'd go, that's going to be a fun one to talk about. I don't know, though.
Except for that Tom Brady is 50 years old. So I've been like, for the past 10 years now, I've been like, he's going to fall off this year. This year is going to fall off. This is the last year of Brady just dominating. So I have been doubting it a little bit for a lot longer than I should have been. Obviously, I have been wrong forever. Eventually, it is going to happen. Maybe it has happened this year. I think it's yet to be determined. I do know, though, that I picked the Bucs in my last survivor pick this past week. They knocked me out. I made it to the final 69. Pretty nice. There were 1,600 to begin. I made it to the top 69 and then was booted. Only 19 of us had the Bucs, which surprised me. And then, of course, they lost. So that was disappointing. I'm disappointed that we're not going to get like a Commanders-Bears game again, but I guess we'll make do with this one.
I'm shocked that there were still 69 people in it last week.
Yeah, it's been a pretty brutal year for just big favorites being knocked out.
What are you talking about? One of the most predictable seasons of the sport I could ever remember.
Dude,
it's been a shit show, especially this last week.
I know recency bias plays a role in everything, Matt, but it does feel like this is one of those years that up is down, down is up. And so much of it is, you look at Green Bay it's like it feels like a changing of the guard in the NFL with Brady failing, with Green Bay. There's other teams I can't even think about right now, but you get where I'm going with this. It's just not the same league.
100%. And now we have one of the up and coming offenses with young playmakers losing their star in Jamar Chase. The hits keep coming with these injuries too. And I can't wait to dig into the data at the end of the season about consistency and about the lack thereof for certain top tier talents. Hey, it doesn't mean that the stars can't shine on a showdown slate, but ultimately this has just been a very unpredictable year altogether. Kind of makes showdown fun if you're trying to win a huge prize like Neil Orfield over there.
It does. It makes it a lot of fun. I feel like tonight's a little bit tough because there are no slam dunk value options for me who are being unknown in this game. So it's a little bit of a tough spot, but we'll make do.
It's going to be, that you're going to come into this game and it's going to end up being like Josh Oliver, 2 receptions, 2 touchdowns at minimum salary, something crazy like that.
I wouldn't hate that.
I bet you wouldn't. I feel like, Neil, we've had a lot of slates where there's been nothing under 2K, and then somewhere you're looking at it and you go, it's any one of these guys. It's any one of them. And this is one where Baltimore, I said this to Kajeski, we talked about it on today's strategy show, that Baltimore is a unique, they're fun, confusing showdown slate team because you have a rushing quarterback in Lamar Jackson. You have a backfield where, even last week, Gus Edwards got 16 carries, but Drake still got 11. Justice Hill got 5. And then they'll throw in, your random Josh Oliver red zone target or Isaiah Likely red zone target, or Duvernay gets the 2 touchdowns. There's so many different variations of what this offense can look like on a weekly basis.
Yeah, no, for sure. It is kind of fun, honestly, for a showdown slate. It's pretty spread out. That's the only issue, is that I'm going to try to get, a little bit above the field on a bunch of these guys who are 5% owned. There's no one guy. There are some slates where I'll get to 30% of a guy who's 3% owned, like with the Paris Campbell week. This is not one of those slates where I see myself going way above the field on any of these guys. I'm just going to be spread out and hope that one of them hits and that I have them in the right lineup.
And Matt, let me just say, Tampa is similar in a different sense, right? First of all, Julio Jones is active. I am so excited for Julio Jones to be active. I will have plenty of him. He will be done in the first quarter, but doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because Gage is out. Like they need him, and they waited till he was 100% healthy. We'll talk about that. But Tampa is similar in the sense of this, or in this sense. You could see Evans and Godwin both get double-digit targets, but Brady's they're throwing the ball at a 70% clip this year. He's throwing the ball 50 times a game. So if that's the case, that's still 30 targets elsewhere in this offense that could go to a Miller or Perryman or any of these guys.
Well, you don't have to tell me. I was someone who was taking wide receiver 3s, 4s, and 5s all summer long in my season-long drafts for this exact reason. The opportunity value of Tom Brady's wide receiver 3, or just receiver 3, because Gronk was often in the mix there, and receiver 4 and receiver 5 is similar to other quarterbacks, receiver 2, receiver 3. You get the point. They get more opportunity value. And with Gage out, if Julio Jones is truly 100% healthy, his opportunity value was excellent in that first game, the only time we really saw a healthy Julio Jones. One thing I will say is that the Bucs obviously have been on a roller coaster offensively, but they're 26th in yards per pass. That sounds like what we would expect. But Football Outsiders, in their pass DVOA metric, has them 10th in the NFL, meaning they're leaving meat on the bone there. It's kind of the same thing with the Ravens, actually. They don't love to pass, but they're 5th in Football Outsiders DVOA right now. That gives us more than some sneaky shootout potential here from both teams.
It does. And I'll tell you what, man, I could have, say, a very special event tonight. I don't. But hypothetically, I on a Thursday night, I have a very special event. And big things are going on in the family and friends are all around and I need to be attentive. And I say, I'm not playing. And then I get an alert on my phone from Adam Schefter that says Julio Jones is active. I'm finding the nearest computer and I'm submitting lineups. Neil, I'm excited about some Julio Jones tonight.
I mean, to be honest, with the way I play, I was hoping he was going to be out so I could throw in some Scotty Miller, some Rashad Perriman, those guys that nobody's going to want to play anyway. But it's always fun to see Julio. He had that one memorable catch early in the year. And so I think in my mind, I'm like, Julio's back. If he's healthy, he's full go Julio. I don't know if he really is at this point or if that was just kind of smoke and mirrors. But I'll be playing some Julio. Where do we have him at right now? We only had him at 20% ownership earlier. I was coming in a little bit under that number. My guess is I'll be, in the double digits, but probably under 20% of Julio. He's not somebody I'm slamming in. He obviously could make me regret it pretty quickly though.
Hey guys, I want to ask you guys a question, because I was looking at some of my lineups that I was hand building and then looking through the lineup generator over on Stokastic.com. And there are some hammy narratives I want to play into, not the actual hamstring, but what if Leonard Fournette gets hurt? Well, how does that change the Buccaneers offense? What if Julio Jones does go down in the first quarter?
Very possible.
Let's not pretend that the probabilities of these players getting hurt isn't a little bit more than the standard player at their position. No, we can't predict injury, but on a one-game slate where we want to try to get ahead of the field with one unique move, why not someone like Rachaad White who would directly benefit, or a Scotty Miller who's probably going to be less popular because Julio Jones is active? How effective really can he be? I like the ceiling there, Laffy, too, but the range of outcomes is gigantic.
Well, first of all, I'm obviously being hyperbolic about this. I'm not jamming Julio, and I've been a big Julio fan forever, and I've just plus we have no idea if Brady's going to look any decent either, but Antonio Brown was so good last year in those 7 games that he played before, throwing his jersey off and, jumping out of the end zone against the Jets. I'm obviously joking to a large extent, but I definitely will have some Julio. There's no doubt about that. But also let's not ignore the fact either that you have no Russell Gage. So Julio's not playing 100% of snaps in this game regardless. You're going to get what? 80, you're probably going to get 90+% of snaps from Evans. Godwin's going to play close to the whole game. But outside of that, Russell Gage, you're taking his 75% of snaps off the field. So Perriman and Miller and maybe even Dart, they're still going to get out there. There's no doubt about it. Julio might only play 30% of snaps for all we know.
Yeah, I mean, these guys are all still in play. I'm on the same. It is fun to have Julio out there. I would have preferred that he sit. Honestly, I would prefer that somebody sit. That would give us a little bit of guidance. I feel like we have too many options tonight. It's just with all of the questionable guys ended up playing, we're a little bit thin. There's nobody who stands out to me as like a must-have. I'm going to jam this guy. I think that it would have been easier for me if Julio had been out to bump up the Scotty Millers and the Brashad Perrimans over guys like James Prochet and who else was Demarcus Robinson. Like I would have been able to bump them up a little bit. I was hoping there would be something to kind of guide me one way or another. There really isn't. All of these guys look a little bit thin, but all of them are also like, it'll take one touchdown to get there. So I'll be playing some Julio. Looks like the field is getting to about 15%. So I think that's about approximately where I actually right now I'm a little bit over what we have the field projected at. I'm not sure if that's if we can totally trust that number, because I think casual players going to see the name Julio Jones and they're going to say Julio Jones is 5,400 or whatever he is, that we're going to play Julio Jones. So my guess would be he comes in a little bit over. I'm glad to hear Matt's on the same page with me there. He's a household name.
Yeah, but I think, I don't know. I'm wondering how many of those people are going to go, Julio Jones is always hurt. Like I'm seeing it in chat right now. Everyone's just saying like full fade on Julio, which might be the right call. But I think the casual even knows that Julio hasn't been healthy since 2014. Like obviously I'm joking, but he hasn't been healthy.
I mean,
since
feels like it.
Midway through his last season with the Falcons, right?
Yeah.
All Tennessee last year, he was hurt. Half the season before that. I think a lot of people see Julio as just a guy that's not going to make it through the first few snaps of the game. And they might be right. Matt, they might be right.
Yeah, ultimately, what's really tough here is that these salaries and the brand names of players like Evans and Godwin are inflated for the shootout potential of this game. And while that is one way this game goes, there are plenty of ways this game does not flow towards the wide receivers being the most productive part. Now, I will say it's hard to see both of Evans and Godwin completely failing once again here. I do think Tampa turns it around to an extent, but these salaries are not that good for these middling players who have a chance of like true goose eggs here with Scotty Miller at 3,200 and Demarcus Robinson and Brashad Perriman. These guys could truly get zero, and they're not the typical 600, 400, 200 we're hoping to get from those players who have zero in their range of outcomes.
Well said, sir. Hey, shout out to all you 1,100 plus people watching right now, even with the NBA live stream still going, fellas. How about that?
Wow.
As it should be.
Yeah.
As
We're dual
should be.
streaming right now. I'm pretty stoked about that. You know, if someone wants to watch NBA and then when that's over, they can jump in here for the last 45 minutes, you know, or they can say, you know what, I got enough NBA, watch a deeper dive. I'm going to jump in, watch some NFL and get action on both sports today. So whoever you are, wherever you are, I appreciate it. I must ask though, can you hit that thumbs up, please? It takes Matt a single second, just 1 second.
Well, that's a lot to ask of people these days.
No.
Do not. Micro choices, people are getting very wary of it.
Do not talk down to our viewer base. They will hit that thumbs up. I have confidence.
I think they should do it.
I think they will.
I believe in our viewer base.
500, Neil. See, Neil's a little more.
So yeah, Neil, I trust them. I know these guys. They're good guys. They're going to hit that like button.
Matt's doing the little reverse psychology thing here. I
would never.
I get it. Matt's like, I hate everyone that watches our show. No, for real though,
I just emanate anger on these shows.
That's what works on the season-long channel. That doesn't work on the DFS channel.
Yeah, exactly. Matt's like, we don't want you here.
Can you go watch the NBA stream?
Welcome to Stokastic. Goodbye.
Yeah, please get out of here. Hello, good night, everybody. Some people will get that reference. Anyway, it takes a single second. That's all. And atone for your sins. Have you not clicked that thumbs up yet? Only takes a second. But in all seriousness, I wouldn't even ask if it didn't help us. The YouTube algorithm, the YouTube overlords, they hover over our heads and try to screw us any way they can. So it helps us when you comment, even in chat, when you comment in chat, other than those fucking bots, all the interaction, subscribing, thumbs up keeps us going here. So thanks, guys. All right, let's get into it, fellas. Nice little intro there. We kind of set the table here. Baltimore Ravens, Neil, opened as 2-point favorites in a lot of spots. They're now down to 2-point dogs against the Patriots here. And the total has actually come up in this game. I'm willing to admit that I have just read this game entirely wrong, because I liked the under here, given that Brady's Bucs have soared under the total in 6 of 7 games this year. He's thrown 1 or fewer touchdowns in 6 of 7 games. It's not to say he can't turn it around, but it's been real troublesome. And now they lost their starting left guard as well. Maybe I'm just seeing this backwards, and judging from the line and the total, I'm willing to admit that it's very possible I am.
I mean, it's in Tampa Bay, so I guess that's probably why things moved in Tampa's favor. I definitely think Baltimore is a better team right now. I'm with you there. So it's a little bit surprising to me, but again, it's a home game for Tampa Bay. Usually, if you have pretty good teams playing against each other and it's a home game, the home team is going to be the favorite. So not a huge shock to me.
Did I say the Pats? If I said the Pats, I didn't mean that.
Are you responding to me or somebody in chat?
The chat.
Okay.
Did I say that?
Just thinking of like Brady on the Pats for some reason.
Maybe I did.
Maybe yes. I said I have no idea.
Yeah,
it might have been me. Clearly, Ravens and the Tampa Bay Bucs. Everybody knows what I'm talking about here. Okay, right. Give me some bread. Cut me some slack. But yeah, Matt, definitely an odd game. Definitely an odd game when you look at the total.
So here's one thing that is ultimately really strange. The Bucs are still top 5 in the NFL in pass rate over expectation, but the numbers on the scoreboard are not looking like a team that is top 5 in pass rate over expectation. The advanced metrics and the efficiency metrics, like yards per carry or Football Outsiders DVOA, think that the Buccaneers are one of the worst rushing teams ever right now as a team. And part of that can be offensive line degradation, if you want to say. But ultimately, I think the risk of ruin is much higher for a Buccaneers team that has already shown signs of crumbling. The Ravens seem like they're figuring it out. Now, 1-game slate, especially with the Bucs being at home, and Vegas kind of toying with us, saying that they know something we don't. It's always possible, but I actually see a Buccaneers team that looks just kind of average. And if the Ravens play up to their potential, they don't have too many unforced errors, I think ultimately you could see some spike weeks that you want to get here on this slate. I mean, it'll be hard to get to other than players like Lamar, but I think you have enough firepower on the outside to take some shots.
So if we're talking quarterbacks, you have Tom Brady of the New England Patriots and Lamar Jackson of the Baltimore Ravens. Neil, we'll start it off with Brady. This is just one of these spots in a showdown slate personally where I pretty much have to ignore everything that's happened this season. I didn't really do that with the Bears, and I was very underweight on Justin Fields in that last game, not against Washington, and he was horrible, but last game. And Justin Fields was spectacular, and the Chicago defense was spectacular. So on these games where you only have one game and 2 teams and 2 quarterbacks to choose from, we kind of have to have some bit of amnesia, right?
Yeah, I mean, as Matt has pointed out several times, quarterbacks on a showdown slate. I mean, quarterbacks are generally going to be good plays on a showdown slate. They put up a lot of fantasy points. They're always going to be some of the best plays on the slate. This is no different. I definitely am at the point where I'm a little bit biased against Brady. I'm like, should I be playing this Baltimore defense? They're just going to sack Brady a million times. The offensive line isn't as good as it has been. But I think that ultimately I'm going to be playing a lot of Brady. He looks phenomenal in our tools. He's one of the most positively leveraged plays on the slate in our tools. Pulling it up. I want to refresh and make sure I got the numbers right here, but he all day has been looking very good in our tools. And I keep on, my instinct is to get away from him. My instinct is, come on, Lamar Jackson is clearly a better play than Tom Brady. But that's not what our tools say. Our tools say Brady, 13.1% projected ownership in the captain spot, 14.6% optimal, 48.4% projected ownership in the util spot, 55% optimal. So he's positively leveraged in both spots. He's still Tom Brady, even at 45 years old. He obviously has the upside to throw 4 touchdowns in a game. So I'm going to be getting to a good amount of Brady. I've had to cut back a little bit to not get like 90%. But so I'm trying to cut back from that, but my guess is I'll still be a little bit above the field.
I love when the Stokastic tools take stands like this, right? Because this is one of the other tropes we've basically turned into a cliche at this point, Neil, which is what happens when I'm right. on these slates. And when you're emphasizing Tom Brady at the MVP or captain spot and Tom Brady over a player like Lamar Jackson, because at a certain point you have to make salary-based decisions there. Ultimately, that when that happens, when that spike week happens, that 4 touchdown week happens, if it's tonight, you're passing all those players who went heavy in on Lamar Jackson or others. So the fact that it's there, it's helpful. It could happen. But can I just say, this is that year that it happens for every person. Like Tom Brady always looked good, but now, wham, he looks his age, like immediately. We're all in agreement, right? Like it came on like a truck.
Yeah. And I think it's a multifaceted issue too, though, not just his age.
Okay, so it's like
you're kind of seeing his personal life, kind of his inner turmoil on the outside a little bit. Is that what we're kind of saying? Oh,
you think I'm talking about the divorce?
I did think
it sounded like
there.
that.
Yeah,
I'm talking about Bruce Arians being gone. Byron Leftwich might be the offensive coordinator, but Bruce Arians was an offensive genius. I'm talking about having your starting center down. I'm talking about having offensive line shakeups. Maybe the divorce is playing a role. Who the hell knows? He definitely seems even more aggressive than we've seen Tom Brady in the past. I'm talking about not having your receivers for a large chunk of the season. I'm just saying, like, I definitely think age is playing a role. You can't stay as good as he was forever, but there's no doubt that there's a lot of different things factor. Like, I think if you put this age Brady on everything we had from the last 2-year Bucs, he's still a lot better than he's been this year. Does that make sense?
It makes sense, but I'm kind of with call me touch CMT. Like the witch isn't with the family anymore, and the powers are being lost. Right?
Oh, you think?
Eyes.
Oh, okay.
This is just very basic science.
Yo, what do you think his completion percentage is under pressure this year?
55%.
39.
That's disgusting.
39% under pressure, and you can talk as much shit on his offensive line as you want. Tom Brady has the fewest percentage dropbacks under pressure of any quarterback this season.
So they're not happening that often, is what you're saying?
Yeah. I'm saying 18.5% pressure rate on dropbacks for Brady. The next closest is Tua at 23%. He's not even getting pressured that much.
I mean, it's good. I mean, there are some positive things here, right? The air yards, total air yards, which is an indication of the overall production volume available, still number 1 in the NFL. It's back up to number 3 in pass attempts, number 4 in deep ball attempts. Still keeping the interceptable passes low. Expected fantasy points per game is middle of the pack, like 12th among quarterbacks. So there are signs here. Certainly better than the 22nd among quarterbacks he currently is this season in average fantasy points per game. There's obviously potential here, especially with players like Godwin. I've seen the chat already talking about Godwin being that player who feels most due on this slate, especially on the Bucs side. But yeah, there are absolutely signs here that this is the night.
Yeah, Godwin's a possession receiver, but I don't think it matters. Like, he's just going to get peppered with targets, and if Brady's throwing as much. See, for me, Neil, I don't really care how bad Brady's been. I know it's been really ugly lately, but the guy's throwing 50 times a game.
Yeah, he really is. He's throwing so much. And as you said, he's only thrown 1 interception all year. So he's still not making major mistakes, still going to be able to retain the ball. And even if he has taken a big step back this year, I don't think it's likely that he is as bad as he looked in the last game. I think that he's probably going to be better going forward than he was in that game, especially in a primetime game. I don't know how much of a factor that really is. Probably doesn't matter that it's a primetime game, but it could for a player like Brady, who's at his caliber. He could get up a little bit more for this game than he did for that Panthers game. So, I mean, I don't know what to say. We're going to be playing Brady. I'm going to be above the field, most likely on Brady. I'm also going to, I'm going to be close to the field, at least with Lamar Jackson as well, but I think I'm going to be above the field with Brady.
How many do you think you're going to have a lot of Lamar Brady lineups, and how easy is that to make?
Let me look on so this is DraftKings. Looks like I have about 37%. No, sorry, that's 37. I have 26 total lineups with both Brady and Lamar in the flex spot on DraftKings.
Out of 150?
Yeah, so maybe I have 40 total lineups with both of them.
That's a decent amount.
Yeah, no, I'm getting a good amount.
Matt, how do you feel about that? Just given the other options, there are some cheap options you can go to for sure.
Well, Brady most likely takes someone with him, right? At least one player with him. But Lamar Jackson can absolutely get to his ultimate ceiling game and not take anyone there. The likelihood that he doesn't take at least one person it's pretty low, right? But ultimately, I do think if you can find the salary to get there, and then just have a bunch of punt plays, that is not a bad way to build tonight.
Kind of remarkable how underwhelming Lamar has been recently.
The first few weeks were
monstrous.
MVP level Lamar Jackson. It's completely on. And then the last 4 have been totally back down to earth. This team just hasn't been scoring touchdowns. Part of it is the running back position has been a little bit more effective, but we just have not seen the ceiling performances in the way that we like. We still have the highest median projection for Jackson.
Yeah. It's interesting because this offense just hasn't been scoring points like you'd think they would either.
No, not at all.
Over the last 4 weeks, Lamar is the QB 20. Wow. That's amazing. I mean, you go back, he doesn't have a rushing touchdown over that stretch. He has one touchdown in 3 straight games and then 0 last time out. But again, Matt, it doesn't really matter. He's the best rushing quarterback in the league. Like, you're getting at least a touchdown in yardage most nights from Lamar Jackson with his legs. And that's without having to actually score real touchdowns.
Absolutely. And we got to remember last week, especially where he was especially down in scoring, they only threw 16 times in that game against Cleveland. He actually had one of the highest yards per attempt games he's had this year. 7.5 yards per attempt that he had against Cleveland. That would be the second highest Tom Brady has had all season in that metric. So I honestly think the passing upside with Bateman playing tonight, that is particularly helpful for Lamar Jackson. Then, of course, as you mentioned, no one has rushing upside at the quarterback position like him. I'm sorry, Jalen Hurts. You're almost there, but Lamar Jackson, especially on design rushes, there's nobody like him.
Neil, do you think – do you want to go to running backs or you want to hit on Lamar a little bit further? I mean, I think we covered most of this. You got anything else at the quarterback position?
Yeah, I don't really know what else you need to say about Lamar. He has the upside to rush for 100 yards and 2 touchdowns and just put up a ton of points on the ground. He's also, early in the year is throwing the ball really well, putting up a ton of points through the air. So having a couple bad games is not going to, lead me away from Lamar Jackson. He's a great play. If you can get Lamar in your if you can get Lamar in your lineup, he is still the top projected play overall on the slate. I want to double check that that's true, but I assume that that's true, that Lamar is still our, yes, Lamar Jackson is the top projected play on the slate. He's a phenomenal play. He can get there on the ground. He can get there through the air. So many ways to put up fantasy points. I love Lamar Jackson on any slate, any showdown slate. I want to play some Lamar Jackson.
As a passer, number 5 in QBR, number 5 in true passer rating, the most dropped passes in the NFL so far, and his receiver yards after catch per target among the worst in the NFL as well. So his receivers need to do something for him a little bit here, and we could wax poetic about the rushing upside all day long.
Yeah, receivers not named Mark Andrews, like other pass catchers. Yeah, because other than Andrews has a 30% target share this year. It's crazy. All right, running backs, Matt. What if I told you that the Tampa Bay Bucs run defense? I think we actually talked about this on this afternoon show, but just for anybody that wasn't with us on the matchup show that you and I do, our marathon matchup show, that the Bucs defense has allowed, mind you, top rushing defense over the last several years. Over the last 4 games, 173 rushing yards to Carolina. That's Chuba Hubbard and Dante Foreman. Both of them have big, long runs. This defense is getting worn down. Then 77 to Pittsburgh doesn't count. That team couldn't run against us 3. Atlanta, 151 rushing yards. How about those star running backs in the Atlanta backfield? And then Kansas City, 189 rushing yards. They've been gutted over the last 4 weeks, 3 of the 4 weeks on the ground. really, we talk a lot about the offense, but some very uncharacteristic play from this run defense as well.
Absolutely. And the advanced metrics took a little bit more time to catch up with what we were seeing with our eyes, because I saw the same thing. They're down to 11th in rush defensive DVOA, which is actually better than you might expect.
Yeah.
So there is some quote unquote potential talent that you could say is still on the line there, but they're below league average in yards per carry allowed. And we've seen the production that other teams have had at the running back position against them. And the Ravens, if they can run, they will run all night long against you. They're 7th in Football Outsiders rush DVOA, 2nd in yards per carry. They clear wide open lanes because of Lamar Jackson, and with Lamar Jackson, the running back is a beneficiary of Lamar Jackson's ability as a rusher. That's the bottom line here. I guess Gus Edwards is the first crack at it. He's not going to look great in our tools, but if he finishes the day with 2 touchdowns on just 16 or 18 touches, don't be surprised.
I like Gus Edwards quite a bit. I have no problem going Lamar, Gus Edwards lineups against. I also, Neil, don't know how much of this is just Tampa D getting completely worn down because their offense, isn't manufacturing any points. Like last year, no team had fewer rushing attempts against them than the Bucs. This year, teams are running on them because they're playing with a lead.
Yeah, and who's to say that's not going to happen again this game?
Sure.
Which is why, I really like these Baltimore running backs, particularly on FanDuel. They're just coming in at no ownership, and I can get it. So Gus Edwards, he's $1,200 on FanDuel, so the price tag just seems too expensive relative to other players on the slate. But he's only coming in at 7.7% projected ownership. And on FanDuel in particular, where you don't get the full PPR bonus, you don't get bonuses for 100 yards, 300 yards for a thrower, that kind of thing. A lot of the time it's just the guys who score touchdowns end up in the optimal lineup. Or, usually sometimes you have to do a little bit more than just the one touchdown, but it doesn't take that much more than getting into the end zone. So when you can find these guys who have a real shot to score a touchdown on FanDuel in particular, I love them. And that's Gus Edwards today. And that's Kenyon Drake for me today at 8,500 on FanDuel, coming in at 6.5% ownership. I think if he gets into the end zone, which I think he's live to do, he'll be in the optimal. I'll play some Justice Hill as well, even a little bit of Patrick Ricard. Yeah, I really like all of these running backs for Baltimore. I think they're one of the ways I'm going to be getting different on FanDuel, but then even on DraftKings, it looks like currently I'm getting to a little bit above the field on Gus Edwards at 7,600. He doesn't look phenomenal in our tools, but I think that he has a pretty fragile projection just because we don't know how much they want to use him. He came back and in his first game, he had, 11 carries? Was that Gus Edwards? Am I remembering that correctly? I should look that up.
Wait,
but he
which
came back
game?
His first last week, Gus Edwards.
16 carries.
16 carries.
Yeah.
Okay.
16 and 17 total opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So he's comes back right away. He's very involved. I think there's some chance that he takes on more of the load now that he's had a week under his belt. They want to see what they had with him. He's a great running back. He has been for his whole career. He can get, over 5 yards per carry. So I like Gus Edwards quite a bit. But again, Kenyon Drake as that pass catching back for the Ravens, I'll probably be getting to a good amount, given that he's under 8% projected ownership. I'm getting to a little bit above the field on Drake as well. And then Justice Hill, only 6.6% projected ownership, 2,400. Wouldn't take that much for him to get there. He was at least a little bit involved last week. Let me find my article. I wrote down my exact thoughts on Justice Hill. He was, maybe I didn't have him in there. But he was involved last week as well. He doesn't cost much. It's a situation where we don't really know what they're going to do with that 3-headed monster. So I like all these guys.
Yeah, me too. I mean, look, Gus Edwards getting 16 carries after being out for 1.5 calendar years.
Mm-hmm.
Not that long, but 15 total months that he's been out of football around? Because he got hurt in training camp.
He got hurt in training camp right before we thought he was going to be the guy all season for them.
Right. It was right after Dobbins went down, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So it might have been at the start of but still, it was like August or something. The guy's been out a long time, comes back and gets 16 carries. If that's not encouraging, I don't know what is.
No, it's absolutely a signal that we should see some ceiling potential there. That's the good. But the bad way, and I kind of was looking at the slate, is that Gus Edwards looks like the perfect path to 6.5 fantasy points today.
Sure.
Right?
He doesn't score.
16 rushes, no catches, 4 yards a carry, no touchdowns, 6.5 fantasy points. You proud of yourself? But we got to talk about range of outcomes here, obviously. So ultimately, I do think that Gus Edwards is a good play because of his chances of falling into the end zone, like Neil was saying. But I get why he's not going to have a super high leverage score on our tools. I get why there's kind of a risk here, especially when we know that, especially with Bateman back, the passing upside between Bateman and Andrews and those tertiary options could actually be more effective today.
Yeah, and you're not wrong. It's just very difficult for me because on one hand, that's, and like you said, range of outcomes. But on the other hand, and Neil kind of brought this up when we were talking earlier, what if the Bucs offense does continue to struggle and Gus Edwards gets 20 plus carries? You know, I don't know. Who knows? And also, Kenyon Drake and Justice Hill still combined for 16 carries themselves. What do we do with them this week?
I'd add that Kenyon Drake is a player that if any player tweaks an ankle, gets hurt, he's immediately going to see added usage. If you see like one player getting 50% of the running back usage and then two players splitting, ultimately it's just kind of a toss of, I never think Justice Hill is going to be a workhorse back just the way he's built. 2,400 for him is not too much, but ultimately neither of these guys look tremendously good on the tools. The narrative I could weave for Drake basically being like a goal line spell back kind of leads me there if I had to decide between the two.
Yeah, Neil, our tools essentially have an unfavorable view of all of this backfield for Baltimore.
Yeah, so again, I'm leaving some salary on the table, which means I have to play some guys who are going to save me a little bit of salary, who I think have the upside, who I think have a path in, a clear path to scoring some fantasy points. And I agree with Matt. Kenyon Drake, I mean, he had a good split of the backfield last week, and now, as Matt alluded to, if Gus Edwards, pulls a hammy, something goes wrong in his recovery, we get more Kenyon Drake. He's the immediate bell cow back in that offense. So I think that there's just a clear path to Kenyon Drake, even without the injury. I think there's a clear path to Kenyon Drake just scoring a touchdown and being in the optimal. But obviously with the injury, if there were to be an injury or, something else weird happens, he has that path. He is the next in line behind Gus Edwards.
Like, my concern is the Ravens would be one of those teams where Gus Edwards is the starter, and that means he's the between the 20s running back, and that they have a pass catcher, and that they have a goal line specialist, and they also have Lamar Jackson. It's tough with these running backs sometimes, and yet the ceiling potential is still there for one of them. Neil, would you make a rule that if you're playing Lamar Jackson, you're probably only playing at most one running back with him, and you may even put a thumbs down on them if you have Lamar Jackson in there, or no?
It's not a rule that I'm making. I guess you could. That's tough. Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's a path for Lamar Jackson plus two running backs. It would have to be Lamar Jackson, rushes for over 100 yards. It's weird to say that this feels backwards, but I feel like it would be Lamar Jackson getting over 100 yards and then the other running backs just getting into the end zone could get there potentially. I think that it's something that's not going to happen very frequently where Lamar Jackson gets there with multiple running backs, but I'm also not getting to enough of these running backs that it's happening a ton. I'm just scrolling through my lineups and I'm not seeing it happening in my lineups right now. So if it happens a few times in my 150 set, I'm okay with it. That's a rule that maybe if I were only playing 20 lineups, I would be more inclined to set a rule like that.
Last week in Edwards' return, he had 4 red zone carries, 2 inside the 10, 1 goal line carry. Drake had 1 goal line carry. But yeah, it looks like Edwards should be that guy. It definitely feels like he should be that guy. Let's talk about Leonard Fournette. And by the way, we talk about these tools. We still have the 3 free days for those of you guys that haven't checked it out yet. Take advantage of it now. You're getting Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So you're getting tools leading up to Sunday as well. 3 free days, everything, all of our stuff. Of course, not Fantasy Cruncher. We don't own Fantasy Cruncher, but you guys knew that already. We just host them on the site. But all of our tools, the Boom Bust tool, the top plays tool, we're talking leverage here, optimal scores, top play probability, ownership, player projections, everything, all of that stuff, every sport, 3 free days, 3 days entirely free, no strings attached. If you hate it, you could just, bounce after those 3 days. But check it out. No risk here involved. If you want to follow along with the tools we're referencing, if you want to use them, Neil's won a ton of money using these tools, hands down. Figure out how to use them. They can be very, very profitable. Built by Alex Baker, Awesemo himself. So there's something behind this. Tyler, throw that link in chat as well. It's already in the description too, if you guys just want to click there. But Leonard Fournette, Neil, you have their rushing attack. Matt mentioned it earlier. Their rushing attack has been dreadful. And they're also abandoning it so quickly in a lot of these games. I mean, the last 3 weeks, they're throwing at 72%. I mean, last week they threw at 74%. But and now they want to get Rachaad White more involved, understandably so. Fournette, though, is still one of those guys that can any given week have a multi-touchdown game. How are you approaching a guy like this?
So I'm going to be underweight to Leonard Fournette, just as a function of the way I'm building my lineup. So it looks like I'm going to be under the field. He's coming in at 40% projected ownership. Actually, I'm not that underweight. I'm at 38%. So I'm just a little bit underweight to Leonard Fournette. I'm also looking like I'm coming in at 7% Fournette in the captain spot to 11% to the field. It's not something that I'm really doing that intentionally. It's just a function of wanting to play other guys who are a little bit lower owned. He's obviously a fine play. I do think that I do have some concern about Rachaad White potentially taking over more and more of that workload. We've seen the past 4 weeks, Fournette has one game where he played 82% of the snaps, but the other 3 games it's 61, 62, and 60% of snaps, as compared to the first 3 games of the year, he played 76, 87, and 91% of the snaps. So I do think that they're, taking him out of the game a little bit, and then obviously involving Rachaad White more. Rachaad White, the first 3 games of the year, 27%, 13%, 9%, the last 4, 38%, 39%, that 22% in that game where we saw Fournette with a spike, but then back up to 43% last week. So Rachaad White is somebody that they're getting involved. They're using him more like a pass catching back. So it does hurt Leonard Fournette, both in terms of maybe not ceiling. Maybe it just hurts Leonard Fournette's floor. The ceiling, I agree with you. It's still there. He could obviously score 3 touchdowns in a game. You could have receiving touchdowns. You can have rushing touchdowns. There are a lot of ways for Leonard Fournette to score fantasy points, but it kind of feels like Rachaad White might be eating into it a little bit. So I'm going a little bit under the field, and I think I'm comfortable with it.
Matt?
Okay. This is scary because you've done very well for yourself with these tools. But I actually think that Rachaad White needs an injury in order to be highly effective. Now, I get it. Like, sometimes they use backup running backs at the goal line. We can't predict those things. But I think Leonard Fournette's change of usage is actually mostly game script dependent. Listen to the total opportunity numbers for these 2 running backs this season. 23-8, 28-4. White didn't play week 3, so we'll skip it. 10-8, 25-9. 27-8, 11-8. So when they're losing, they just take away rushes from Leonard Fournette. But Rachaad White is an 8 opportunity player on this team. Maybe 9. I get it. If it bounces up to 10 or 12 in a 1-game slate and you want to play it that way, that's fine. But ultimately, I think if they are in the driver's seat in Tampa Bay, Leonard Fournette could see a 25, 27 opportunity game, even with Rachaad White just keeping that flat 7 to 10 opportunities.
Yeah.
Neil, do you have any interest in playing White and Fournette together?
I've got no issue with it. I like to sometimes play 2 running backs from the same team just as a way to avoid duplication. A lot of people aren't going to want to do that. A lot of people think it's either going to be Fournette's show, or if Rachaad White eats into it, then Fournette can't really do it. I don't really play that way. I think that oftentimes if the running game is having success, they're going to have success with multiple running backs. So I kind of like having them both in the same lineup in some lineups. I'm going to have several with both.
All right, fellas, wide receiver time. And we are going to soar to 500 likes. We have 371. I'll go to Neil on this because he keeps the enthusiasm, Matt. We're 372, Neil. We're less than 130 away, and we still got a half hour left. I mean, I think 600 is actually in play here.
Oh, it's easy. We're going to get to 600. No hesitation there. Our audience is the best audience out there. They know how to hit that like button. They know how to click a button. They're willing to do so.
Exactly. Matt, we're going to get to 600 likes, Matt.
It's a lock during lock.
Oh, you should have kept the stick up.
I hate them. I hate them all. I can't even hold it.
These guys suck. We'll never get there.
We'll probably
finish with less likes than we have now.
You won't
No,
like
we're about to hit 475. So yeah, it's thank you guys. You are the greatest. Never in doubt. Appreciate you. Sam Pierce with a super chat. How likely is it the Tampa offense is stagnant where Gus Edwards, Tucker, and Ravens defense is optimal? The funny thing is Tampa Bay's red zone defense has actually been really bad this year. So it'll be interesting. That doesn't mean Tucker's not drilling 50 yarders, but and I want to get your guys, we'll get a quick opinion from all of us on this. I don't know how likely it is, but we've seen that it's very much plausible that Tampa's offense remains if they remain stagnant, Matt, it just means that they've played like they have all season.
The only issue I have with this idea is that it makes too much sense that the running back, the kicker, and the defense would just work in the way that fantasy football is supposed to work.
And in this season, nothing makes sense.
That's right. This from a lineup building, from a hand building perspective, that trio makes all the sense in the world, and you have some salary to work with at that point. If you're asking me my favorite DK captain, and I like how you snuck in like kind of a second question there.
Yeah, I think that's a $10 super chat if we're being honest.
I don't know about that one, but I do think that I'm on the Chris Godwin train tonight too with a lot of others, but he's positively leveraged in our tools at the captain position, and it'll just make your lineups different than the people who are going quarterback captain anyway.
Neil, any thoughts on this one?
Chris Godwin, a captain. Yes, I absolutely love. I need to go read that super chat. He was just
basically saying, what do you think the likelihood is that Tampa's offense struggles again? And you have like the Gus Edwards, Justin Tucker, Ravens defense being optimal.
Yeah. I mean, that's certainly within the range of outcomes. Those are the kinds of lineups. I mean, it's good to make a lineup with a game script in mind, and that is a way that it could work out. As you said, it makes too much sense. So if it makes too much sense, I even on Showdown where we like to get weird, it makes so much sense, but not a lot of people are going to do it anyway. So I don't hate building for that outcome.
Okay, let's go wide receivers here. Have some fun with this one. And no, Deshaun Jackson was not elevated from the practice squad. So Matt, you have a very interesting position. We have a very interesting position. Us and the audience that you abhor so much.
Yeah, the worst.
Let's go. I think we have to go team by team with receivers here because there's so much to get into. Tampa Bay is a little murkier, so let's talk Baltimore. No, let's do Tampa Bay first to give everybody that's watching the time that they need to make their lineups. Julio's active. I don't know how many. I'm going to actually right now see if there's anything on how much he's expected to play, but it can't be that much, which means that we're still going to get some Scotty Miller and Brashad Perriman because Russell Gage is out. So you have Mike Evans, you have Chris Godwin, who's been a target machine this year, Brady throwing 40, 50 times a game. And then you have Jones back, Perriman, you have Scotty Miller. We haven't even talked about Cade Otton yet at tight end.
Right, because Cameron Brate is out as well. So we'll get there eventually. We know the two big horses here with the wide receiver position, right? It's who's going to do better, Mike Evans or Chris Godwin. And then we got to quantify or try to at least, what are the chances that neither of them hit? Unfortunately, this year, those chances have started to increase. But ultimately, in terms of skill position players, Evans and Godwin stick out far and above the rest of the players here that we've got on this slate. Godwin, because the salary savings from $11K to $9K on DraftKings is going to look phenomenal in our tools. But one thing I like to do is just kind of close my eyes and just flip the scores and flip the script for these players and see how it would change my lineup. Ultimately, Evans is a player I want to always be with the field on because when he goes off huge for multiple scores, doesn't even necessarily need to have huge volume. And he's basically a break-even play if you look at leverage score here. They literally have a 10-point lead in our projections, median projections, on any other Bucs receiver.
Wow. Yeah, that's a lot. And Neil, you have Evans who is definitely a deep threat. He dropped, such an uncharacteristic drop last week to kick that game off. That could have changed everything. Who knows? He's also a guy that certain weeks just won't get a lot of looks. Godwin's more of a possession guy for sure. And I think he only has one deep target all year. But when Brady's chucking, Godwin's locked into double-digit targets in those type of games. So different wide receivers for sure. but they can both produce in big ways, just a little bit differently. And Godwin's also one of the best yards after the catch guys in the league.
Is it me, or does it feel like on these showdown slates, whenever we get the Bucs, they just throw to one receiver constantly? It's probably not the case, but I feel like so often, I play these Bucs receivers, and then it's like 3 touchdowns to Mike Evans, couple passes to Chris Godwin. That's it. That feels like the way they usually play these games. But yeah, I'm playing a good amount of both these guys. Chris Godwin obviously looks the best of anybody. He looks the best of anybody on the entire slate. Maybe he's only 9,000. So you get major salary savings from Mike Evans, $2,000 salary savings, and we haven't projected better than Mike Evans. So obviously Chris Godwin looks great just from a base projection point per dollar standpoint. And then you look in our tools, our single game slate tool, we haven't projected for 11.8% ownership in the captain spot, 12.5% optimal. So a little bit of positive leverage in the captain spot for Chris Godwin. And then also in the utility spot, 43% ownership, 50% optimal. So we've got positive leverage in both spots for Chris Godwin. I like it a lot. I had to really force my way into getting some Mike Evans. He projects so poorly relative to Chris Godwin. But I do feel like Mike Evans, we know that the upside is there for Mike Evans. So even after making a lot of adjustments and really boosting my Mike Evans projection significantly and actually negatively boosting my Chris Godwin projection slightly, I'm still above the field on Chris Godwin and well below the field on Mike Evans. That's how well Chris Godwin projects relative to Mike Evans tonight.
All right, Tyler, you got that queued up? All right, toss it up. Boys, throw on the stream real quick and just take a gander at what we're about to see here for a second. Okay. Here we go. Oh, look at that. Oh man, look at that.
What is it? Julio.
I mean, hey, if you weren't sold before.
I have no idea what we're looking at right now.
It's Julio catching. He gets like 3 feet of air. No.
Oh man. Double coverage, corner end zone.
Okay.
No.
All right. I got a season-long league that I have to start one of Rashad White or Julio Jones because it's bye week hell and injuries are bad. Who do I go with? Is it Julio? Is it really Julio?
Is it Julio or who?
Rashad White. I have to start one of them.
Oh God.
You know my answer.
You should quit fantasy football, Matt.
Sorry. Should I leave the show now?
It would be great
audience. Just kidding.
I think it would be Julio for me. I think you're the fantasy football guy, so I should be asking you these questions. But I think it's Julio. Do you agree with that? Is that what you're doing?
Yeah. I do.
Okay. I thought if I felt like I was a favorite, I should go with White, and if I need the ceiling, I should go with Julio. I know it's a little bit of a cop-out answer, but
I think that's a very I think that's the answer.
That's the right
what
answer,
you just
White's
said
not giving you a 0.
Yeah. Also, you knew my answer was if you said Julio Jones or Devontae Adams, I'd be like, No, I'm kidding, and clearly I'm joking with that. But hey, Julio Jones, let's talk about it. I don't want to spend too much time because we spent the beginning of the show talking about it. But for anyone that came in after the NBA stream, what are you guys' quick thoughts on Julio today? He is back. He is active. And they had been saying that they wanted to wait till he was fully healthy. So that's the only encouraging aspect of this is maybe they really, because he's been getting limited practices in throughout each week. Maybe he's healthy, but if his hamstrings truly are made of string cheese, then who knows how long he's healthy for.
Look, it was so encouraging week 1, which was really the only time we saw him close to healthy. Mm-hmm. Played on a 54% snap share. That's kind of what we wanted to see. Ran 21 routes, 5 targets, 3 receptions, 110 air yards. Remember, they took a couple deep shots to him. He ended up with 11 fantasy points. Hey, I could see that happening again here.
And he only played half the game.
Right. I could see him getting hit the wrong way and coming out. And that's just the way you got to play it with some of these one-game slate players. But Julio Jones will have a play dialed up for him in the red zone. I guarantee you they have a red zone play ready to try for Julio Jones today.
Hey,
guaranteed.
You still have to defend Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. It'll be interesting.
I'm just saying that he'll be a first look. That doesn't mean he'll get the target.
Right.
The play is designed for him.
Yeah. Might be Allen Robinson first look end zone and just nothing ever materializes. That's totally possible too. Neil, Julio Jones and all of and break down the rest of these receivers now that we know who's active and inactive.
Yeah, so we already hit on Evans and Godwin. Julio Jones. So I said when I saw that he was active in our chat that he was a middling play. I kind of think that he's a middling play. With that said, coming in at only 14% ownership, I'm getting above the field on Julio Jones. I do think that he has that slate breaking upside. Like Matt said, if you need the upside, Julio Jones is a guy that certainly has it. It wouldn't surprise me to see them go to Julio Jones instead of Evans or Godwin for the multiple touchdown game. He certainly has that capability. We saw it week one. He looked really good. Yes, I did actually. I was able to get that stream up. I got to watch that pregame end zone look. And
you're in.
I'm in. I'm sold. I'm sold. Yeah, not a lot of air there, but enough. He's a tall enough guy. How high does he really need to get? He can get over some D-back. So yeah, no, I like Julio Jones quite a bit at 5,400. Yeah, I don't know what else to say about him. I am going to be above the field on Julio, and I'm happy to be above the field on Julio at 5,400. My expectation was if he was ruled in, we'd get him up to 25% ownership, and maybe we will. If he does get up to 25% ownership, as I speculated at the beginning of the show, just because of the name recognition, then I'll actually be under the field. But the way we have him projected right now in terms of ownership, I'm coming in above the field, and I like it. I think that the price is right, and he certainly wouldn't shock me at all to see Tom Brady looking for Julio in the end zone. As far as the other guys, yeah, Scotty Miller, Brashad Perriman, I'm also trying to get above the field there, just because, as I said earlier, there's nobody that I really love at very low ownership on this slate. I think that these guys are as good as any. If we expect Julio to maybe be 50% of snaps and these guys each get in for 30-ish, I'd be happy to get to some Scotty Miller and Brashad Perriman. They're just guys that have the ability to score one long touchdown to pay off these price tags. So I'm going to be above the field on these guys, but I'm not especially confident in any of these really low-owned wide receiver plays. I'm just trying to get a little bit above the field to all of them so that if one of them hits, I'll be live in a number of lineups.
All right, let me take a break quickly. Thank you, Tyler, for that overlay report on No House Advantage. It is 629 out of 1,600 right now. What? 629 out of 1,600. We're 15 minutes from lock. This is why you sign up and play at No House Advantage, straight up. And everything you wanted to do for DFS is totally applicable for No House Advantage. You're just taking props. You're building a lineup. That's it, with no salary. You're just taking props. The ones you like the most go at the top. I'm telling you how to play so you can jump in right now. Link is in the description. Tyler, throw it in the chat. This is going to overlay. It's $10,000 up top. It's going to massively overlay. We're looking at less than half of the field filling here. You just build lineups with props. We have the free No House Advantage lineup generator over at Stokastic. We have the No House Advantage prop projections over at Stokastic. It's clearly going to overlay. No question about it. 10K up top. You build lineups with props. No juice on either side. Over, under. The ones you like the most get the most points. They go at the top of the lineup. The ones at the bottom of the lineup, the ones you're least confident in, they get the fewest points. They even have a multi-lineup generator at No House Advantage. Take advantage of the overlay. And if you don't get in tonight, sign up anyway. You get a $50 first match deposit bonus, and Sunday's going to overlay like a motherfucker too. So overlay is the way to get free money these days when it comes to DFS, and No House Advantage is throwing it around like crazy. So use the link in the description. You get the up to $50 first match deposit bonus, and in the chat as well. Just insane overlay right now. And the props are static. They don't change. Use our free tools. They're under the NFL projections. All right, Matt, close out Tampa Bay Bucs receivers and hit me with some Baltimore ones as well.
Look, the bottom line is after you get past the big two, all of these players are negatively leveraged in the tools, just meaning that their expected ownership is more than their chances of being in the optimal lineup. It doesn't mean they aren't going to be in the optimal lineup. Ultimately, I think Scotty Miller is a slot player that I think could take some of the gauge snaps that Julio Jones isn't really designed to take himself. So I do think he's probably my favorite of the group. And then on the other side, no one is a wide receiver one because that belongs to Mark Andrews. So if we're really just talking wide receivers, I'm excited to see Rashad Bateman, but I also don't think that this looks like a spot I absolutely have to get to as well.
The only argument I'd make, no Sean Murphy Bunting, no Antoine Winfield, no Carlton Davis. That secondary, they got some issues right now.
The big play potential is there. The Buccaneers' pass defense, however, has been something that has been they've started to figure it out. 4th in yards allowed per pass attempt, 6th in Football Outsiders pass DVOA. I'm not saying it's impossible here. It's actually, two talented units in the Baltimore pass offense and the Buccaneers pass defense, but they often find themselves in disadvantageous situations where their teams are going away from those. I do think that Bateman has some solid potential here at $7K. It's a significant discount from the Godwins and the Andrews, and at the very least, the opportunity value, the expected fantasy points should be pretty good.
Neil, I want to ask you this a little bit differently. My goal is always to help the viewers, right? We want to give them some strategy as well.
Not mine.
That's not no. Matt, see, there
he just wants them to leave.
Okay, now he's in it. We're just keeping this for the rest of the season. That was solid.
It's funny because it's so contrary to his personality.
Oh, for sure. That's what makes it great.
Yeah.
Like if it was Matt or Eric, just be like, I hate everybody.
Yeah.
That's not you, which makes it better.
Yeah.
But they both have, theater arts and stuff, backgrounds.
That's true. They can do it. They can pull it off.
They can pull it off. Yeah. Neil, because I'm sure people want to know this, and then I'm going to get to your guys' super chats. Tyler got them lined up for me. How many cheap players do you have at cap? I'm not asking you for an exact number. I know that's tough, but how many cheap players do you have in captain spots today? So non-Lamar, Andrews, Brady, Evans, Godwin, Fournette type plays to open everything else up.
A lot. So I set my cap today. I wasn't sure where I was going to set. I set my cap on player exposures in the captain spot at 20%. So I did get a good number of players. Let's see. I've got 20% Brady, 19 Jackson, 15 Godwin. Going down. I don't have a ton of any of this. So I've got 3.4% Duvernay, 3.4% Evans. Maybe that's a mistake. Maybe I need to get more there. Bateman, Suckup, Ravens defense, Kate Otten, Rashad White, Justin Tucker, Bucs defense, Scotty Miller, Julio, Kenyon Drake. So I've got them kind of spread out. None of that. I don't see any $200 players here, or like the cheapest of the cheap. I don't have in the captain spot here, but I've got a lot of, $2,000 to $5,000 players here.
Okay, Matt, what about you? How comfortable are you with, the cheap guys and I'm not saying I'm not saying you're going to a dart and a captain, although we've seen some crazier shit happen. Josh Oliver, but even like a Duvernay at captain, Kate Otten at captain, Julio at captain, those type of guys.
I think Kate Otten is actually viable just because of how positively leveraged he looks in our tools and how weird showdown slates have been. But actually, I still think that there is some ceiling potential for Baltimore's Isaiah Likely. The target share has been middling, a 10% target share, obviously being used closer to the line of scrimmage. His expected fantasy points, the opportunity value is like a 5 fantasy point player at best. But if he finds the end zone, the only issue here is he ran 3 routes, only played 8% of snaps last week. I'd like to see that go back up. He was up at 22 to 35 previously before that. If he is for some reason limited, then maybe Nick Boyle is a random flyer. I guess Josh Oliver, both of these players, because of the presence of either one, make it hard. 2 flyer tight ends make it terrible.
So we cruised past 600 likes. Thank you guys. All Neil.
All my enthusiasm. That's right.
Thank you. Awesome. We still have almost 2,100 people watching. So if you had to, Neil, with context here, of course, salary, ownership, leverage score in our tools. Like I said, 3 free days, links in the description if you want access to all that. How are you ranking all these receivers today? Like top 4?
Receivers and tight ends together, or just like the...
Yeah, let's throw tight ends into the mix as well, because I want to be able to build a lineup and have enough time for these guys.
I mean, it's Godwin number 1, Andrews number 2, Evans number 3. Might be Julio number 4 for me, just because he's going lower owned than Rashad Bateman at 1,600 cheaper. You see it differently, Matt?
Is that real?
Julio at number 4?
I got to put Bateman at number 4. Come on.
I mean, Bateman, the problem is that Bateman is higher owned. So I'm talking large field GPPs. We've got Julio at 10% lower ownership and he's 1,600 cheaper. I don't know. It's between those two for me at number 4. Kate Otton's also really interesting tonight. So Kate Otton, I think, is also in that conversation.
Wait, but take what you were saying, about Julio Jones being slightly more popular. If there's not that big of a difference in ownership, or maybe some of that ownership is pulled away from a player like Bateman, I still think this is a first rounder who they were okay trading Hollywood Brown to the Cardinals for. I think Bateman is expected to be a huge part of this offense. We know who Mark Andrews is. He's not going away, but Bateman has ceiling potential and 10 target potential.
Well, Matt, who are your top 4?
I mean, I agree with all 3 except for the last one, Rashad Bateman.
Gotcha. Okay. Just wanted to make sure. I was going to ask you the same question.
It was between those two for me. And also, I also like Kate Otton quite a bit, but yeah, he's obviously a rung below those guys.
Yeah, I like Kate Otton a lot. We should. He's going to get a lot of opportunities. He's going to run a lot of routes. Matt already spoke to it. Neil, you spoke to it. We don't really need to talk much about Mark Andrews. If you're getting Mark Andrews, you're fine with that. And then, like I said, it comes down to guys like Isaiah Likely. It comes down to Josh Oliver. Those are your other players that they might run 7 routes and one of them could be a touchdown, but who knows? Maybe that's not even close to enough tonight.
Yeah, stuff. So Matt just talked up Isaiah Likely a little bit. I actually am not getting to a ton of Isaiah Likely, and he's been a guy that I've been high on all year. Drafted him a ton in best ball, added him to my keeper league roster. Really like Isaiah Likely. I'm just a little bit scared by the fact that his snap count has actually been going down. He, week 1, 45% down to 36, then 33, then 37. And then the past 3 weeks, 23%, 22%, and 11% snap count. I don't like that that's gone down. Whereas Josh Oliver seems to have gone up a little bit to 48% this past week. I don't know. It's hard for me to, I guess Josh Oliver has been kind of right there the whole time. So maybe it hasn't really been that much of an impact on Isaiah Likely.
I think Oliver is the rushing tight end more so than Likely, who is a pure passing tight end.
Okay. So you think that when he's out there,
yeah.
No, that's my understanding as well, that Isaiah Likely is more of the passing down kind of tight end. He's more involved in the passing game. It's just you still want to see him out there for more snaps. Like, why are they playing him less? I don't get that. So there seems to be some kind of concern there. So it was hard for me to go above the field. And also just because I know that he's one of those hype guys. Like, there are a lot of people who are like me, who are really high on him this summer and are wanting to play him. And, he's one of those names nobody knows about Isaiah Likely. I'm going to get him at low ownership, and then he's going to be 12% owned. And I don't know. It's a little bit hard for me, but I'm coming in a little bit under where we have him projected for the field on DraftKings. I'm curious where I am on FanDuel, actually.
You said a little bit underwear. Sorry. That's
I did. That was good catch there.
Should we build a lineup? We got about 5 minutes to go. All right. Still got 1,900 people with us, 1,900 strong. Last thing I'll tell you guys, because if there's free money out there, I'll tell you how to take advantage of it. BetMGM, $10 into 200. Sign up using the link in the description. Like I said, everything's in the description or in the chat. Take $10 when you sign up. Bet any pregame money line for the NBA. This is it. They don't need to win. It's a no-brainer. All that happens is a team needs to hit a three-pointer. Not even in that game. Any team on the slate. And when they do, because they will, it is a lock. Unless the world ends tonight. Very possible at this stage of the game. Unless the world ends tonight, that 10 is turned into 200. That's it. And you win your bet. If you win your bet, you still get paid out. So I would say take a small money line dog. Give yourself an opportunity to get that money and then get the 200 on top of it and go build a bankroll. If you lose everything, you lost $10. That's your downside. If you win everything and go on a mega heater, you're talking about a huge bankroll. You got a new book to play at. You got different odds to shop. And instead of having to deposit a bunch of money on there, you put $10 in, you bet an NBA money line, you watch some basketball or didn't, who cares? You could wake up, the money's in your account anyway. And now you can bet it on Sunday for NFL. So BetMGM, if you're not there yet, you can't be in New York, Pennsylvania, or Mississippi, but if you're not there yet, 10 into 200, just like that, friends. All right, let's go with Matt first. Build a lineup here. Let's see what we come up with. Have some fun. And yeah, let's do that. Smoking just at killing time. I could go 7 hours on a show. You must not have seen these before. Matt, let's go Millie Maker. So large field, captain spot. You're first, buddy.
Chris Godwin.
All right, that was quick. All right, I actually
not too far off the wall.
I like the confidence. Yeah. All right, Chris Godwin at captain. Neil, who do you want next?
Lamar Jackson.
Lamar. All right. Well, I'm going to go Julio here. So let's go Julio Jones. Matt.
Bateman.
All right. We'll go Bateman. We kind of have to go Brady at this point. I'm going Brady. So let's go Brady. Neil, that leaves us with 2,300 remaining. Is there anything different we can do on a pretty chalky lineup so far?
Well, we can, yeah. So we're gonna have to leave a little bit of salary on the table.
Are you okay with that usually?
I think I'm okay with leaving a little bit of salary here. Yeah, might be okay with that. All right, let's see. In terms of projection, where are we going? I mean, we could play somebody like Rashad Perriman, leaves a little bit of salary on the table. Who else do I like here? We could play some James Prochet.
Isaiah Likely.
Yeah, we could. It doesn't leave a lot of salary on the table if you use Isaiah Likely. What does that leave? 700? We have 2,300 left over.
It's your call, Neil. Yeah, Likely would only leave a little bit. Perriman would leave 1,100.
Yeah. No, let's go with Isaiah Likely. I don't mind that at all. Let's do it. We've got Lamar.
Go Likely. All right.
I guess we've already got Bateman in there too. So now we have two pass catchers for the Ravens and only one for the Bucs.
We have Julio and Godwin.
Okay. And who do we have? We have Godwin at captain.
We have Godwin at captain. Yeah.
Yeah. So I like
it's
Likely
a Mark
there.
Andrews fade lineup.
Yeah.
And a running back fade lineup.
Yeah. Let's go with Likely there. And as pointed out in chat, there is some possibility. Somebody, I think Frank Castle said he sees Mark Andrews going out there for a ceremonial start today. He has been limited all week. But he was out there for 88% of snaps last week. So let's keep in mind, although he didn't do anything on the field, he was out there for 88% of snaps. So I think that it's fine.
And we also know that on Thursday Night Football, the rogue tight end touchdown, the nameless tight end touchdown is always a thing.
100%.
Yeah.
It's a fun show, fellas. Flew by. Almost 700 likes, too. I mean, we're 665. Props to the people. Appreciate you guys. Wish you all the best of luck. What do you guys have before we go? Any final words? Matt, just be nice, please.
I guess. Look at this ratio of watching to likes. It's actually really good. And chat was actually on fire today. I was picking on you guys, but you guys are awesome every single week and every single show. Love y'all.
Fuck, I forgot the super chats. I have them down. I know those guys watch every show. I'll make it up to you. I'll give you some free ones next show. Tyler sent them to me. Neil, close us out, man. Yeah, sorry we missed those super chats. We will pay you back next time we do the show. We do plenty of your shows, so we'll get the show there. Let's go win some money tonight. All right. And hey, boys, 700 likes as we close this one out. How about that? How about that?
Let's go.
Good luck, guys.
Someone take down No House Advantage.
Hell yeah. Let's do it. Let's make it happen. Yeah. And No House Advantage. There's free money over there. We'll see you guys. Good luck tonight. Peace.